Today's first reading, God tells Elijah that he will appear to him. And Elijah must climb this mountain and wait for him in the cave, and that the Lord will pass by the entrance of the cave, and that he will know when that Elijah will know when the Lord has arrived. And Elijah hears a lot of things going outside. He hears an avalanche. He hears a fire, probably a brush fire or a forest fire. And finally, he hears an earthquake. Well, that reminds me of a time, a long time ago, probably 30 years ago. And I was in Los Angeles. I was at Nuestra Señora de Los Ángeles. It was Our Lady of the Angels, the founding mission of Los Angeles itself. You'll find that most of the big cities in California were all founded and named by the Spanish missions, as was Los Angeles. So I was there for 5 months, and it was 100% everything in Spanish, so I really had to work on my language skills. I remember that very well. After Easter, the priest in charge of the rectory, it was an order. There were the priest, 3 other members of the order, and myself. This is a very, very large parish. He said, let's go out, get away for a few days. Let's get on the other side of the San Gabriel Mountains near Palm Springs, and we'll take a break out in Palm Springs. So we got in this van, and we drove over the San Gabriels, and we got to Palm Springs, got to this nice hotel, and all of the rooms opened up around this large, beautiful pool, and there were palm trees, and it looked very relaxing and inviting. And I remember my second night there, I was sitting in my bed, and I had the TV on, but I was getting ready to turn it off to go to bed, and I realized that it looked like the TV was shaking, and then it went out. Then I realized my bed was shaking. Now, maybe some of you remember in hotels and motels, the time where you could put a quarter in. If they still have, I'm sure it's more than a quarter, and you'd push the button, and it would vibrate and give you a massage. Yeah. Well, that's what I thought kicked on. I didn't put a quarter in it, but the bed was shaking. I thought it was giving me a free massage. Turned out it was an earthquake. Earthquake. Well, I kind of sat there and wrote it out, and then when the earthquake stopped, I went to bed. But before I fell asleep, I remember hearing a lot of voices out around the pool. Well, the next morning at breakfast, I'm sitting there with my fellow priests, and they said, Joe, you didn't come out of your room after the earthquake. You didn't come out. I said, why? Am I supposed to? And they said, oh, yes. Earthquake drills are quite common in California because we get a lot of earthquakes, and the first thing you do is everybody gets out of the building because the worst thing that you can be is inside of a building during an earthquake because the building could fall on top of you. I said, well, I'm from Michigan. We have tornado drills. You go in the basement, you go deeper into your house. It's the complete opposite. But we don't have earthquakes, so I never had an earthquake drill. Then I paused and said, but then again, you all know I'm from Michigan. How come no one came and banged down my door? Well, they looked at each other, and one said, well, we kind of figured you were sound asleep, and we didn't want to wake you up. Well, I guess there's rest, and then there's eternal rest. I guess that's what I kind of but I didn't know. But you're supposed to flee the building in case there is an earthquake. The same is true with these other things. When there is a fire, a brush fire, or a forest fire, a house fire, what are you supposed to do? Get away, get out of the house, or get down the road, get away from it, flee as fast as you can. If there's an avalanche coming, you go as fast as far, we don't have those either in Michigan, but boy, if there's an avalanche, you go the other way as fast as you can to get away from it. You see the danger, you get away. But where does Elijah find the Lord? He finds the Lord in quiet, in peace. And he hears this tiny whispering sound. Those are the exact words, tiny whispering sound. Well, the only way you're going to hear a tiny whispering sound is if it's all quiet around you. And there in the quiet, in your prayer, in your moment of solitude, you begin to hear the voice of God. It's referenced in today's gospel reading. If you remember last week, John the Baptist, who's Jesus' first cousin, has been killed by Herod. He wants to get away to pray, and the crowd follows him. So he ministers and feeds the crowd. But now the crowd's dismissed. What's Jesus still need to do? Get away. Need some quiet time with his Father to pray. And while he's doing that, his disciples get caught up in a storm, and he's got to go take care of them. Even Jesus knew the importance of getting away from the noise and just sitting in the quiet. And I was reflecting on that, and I realized that, human nature is the same, but we live differently. And one thing that they did not have in Jesus' day is cable news. We have cable news. I'm convinced cable news exists for one thing and one thing only, scaring us to death every day. I'm convinced of it. Now, I've been in enough homes to know, and I'm related to enough people to know, that there are people, the first thing you do in the morning is click that on, and then the last thing you do at night is click it off. Well, you run away from a fire, you run away from an avalanche, you run out of the building with an earthquake. When it comes to being inundated with things that will scare us and fear us, we tend to run toward it. We can't get enough of it. I mean, do you want to be afraid all day? I don't want to be afraid all day. And I can't stand all of them. They're all bloviating about something that goes on and on and on. And I have found that shutting it off and having some quiet is good for your soul. And it gives you a peace of mind. Now, initially, I got to tell you, if you haven't done this, it's going to be scary not to have quiet. And I know what some of you ladies are going to say, I have kids, I never have quiet. Fair enough. Fair enough. I can't argue with that. But if you are able to turn it off, and you're able to sit, even if it's for just, 10, 15 minutes, and enjoy that quiet, you'll find in your prayer the presence of God. And you'll find in that solitude a sense of peace inside of you. And that peace that you feel inside of you is God's telling you that despite all the tribulations in this world, I am with you. And despite all the anxiety the world likes to throw at you, I, like Jesus reaching his hand down to Peter in the water, will pull you out of it and give you life.